I said, Lord, I'm lost. I'm angry. I don't know what to do. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I'm frustrated. What am I supposed to do with my life? I heard him speak to me from the Eucharist.
The best of the week on Relevant Radio.
Sacraments cannot be received without also receiving a corresponding call on our lives. So today on the program, we'll explore that call. Here's our spiritual director today, is a brand new spiritual director for us, Father Robert Ryan. Father Ryan's the pastor of St. Benedict Parish in Chicago and is the co-director of the Eucharistic Revival in the Archdiocese of Chicago. Welcome to the show, Father, and thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Patrick. Thank you very much. It's a great joy to be here with you today.
Well, I know that people probably have heard you perhaps on other shows or leading our daily Mass here on Relevant Radio, but since this is your first time on The Inner Life, why don't you take a moment just to introduce yourself to us?
Sure. Thank you. So I've been a priest for 4 years. I grew up north of the city, right on the Illinois-Wisconsin border, where I grew up in a great Catholic family, went to Michigan State University for my undergrad, where I started to fall away from the faith. From there, I took a job with a large technology company down in Austin, Texas. So 6 weeks after graduation, moved to the other side of the country, where I worked in sales and marketing and lived a very secular life. As a matter of fact, on social media, my religion was listed as the US dollar. All I cared about was money. I wasn't going to Mass. I wasn't praying. I was really living a life very contrary to the gospel and the values that I was brought up with. And then in 2012, I found myself laid off along with a bunch of my coworkers. And at the invitation of my dad, I moved back to Chicago, where they had a rule that if you live under a roof, you go to Mass. And so I started going back to Mass with them, not entirely sure what I believed or why I believed it, but just going through the motions. And little by little, the Lord was working on me. He was pouring his grace into my heart, and he was changing me, and I was responding to it in a way that I didn't even really know and understand at the time. So about 9 months after moving back home, my parents were on vacation, and I had the house to myself. I'm 28 years old, so naturally, what am I going to do? I'm going to have a party, right?
Sure.
And so I had all these plans to have this party, and then I get this sinking feeling in my gut that something terrible is going to happen if I go through with this. And so I end up canceling all the plans. And so now it's a Friday night. I'm having a pity party for myself, and I'm trying to shake this feeling that just won't seem to go away. And this little voice inside my head starts telling me that if I want this feeling to go away, this dread, this feeling of disgust, really, then I need to get back to confession. And I tried to push it away, but I couldn't. And so I ended up finding a parish a few towns over so that no one knew who I was. And they had a confession time in the afternoon. And so I walked in trying to think back to grade school about what I was supposed to do. It had been over 11 years since my last confession. And it's finally my turn. I get behind the screen and I kneel down and I make the sign of the cross and I fumble through the words, bless me, Father, for I've sinned. It's been a long time since my last confession. And the Holy Spirit just took over and started pulling all this garbage out of me. Things that I had forgotten, stuff that I wanted to forget, things that I never would have said out loud, things that I was ashamed of and embarrassed about. Just all of it just started pouring out of my heart. And the first thing the priest said to me was, welcome home. And
Wow.
It wrecked me. I just started bawling my eyes out. And we had this really beautiful conversation. And he said the words of absolution over me, and it just changed my life. Long story short, about 9 months after that, started getting more engaged with the faith. I started learning more about the faith. I started getting more involved with things. And I discovered Eucharistic adoration. I taught myself how to pray the Rosary. I was starting to develop a real faith in the Lord, learning more about the faith and going to the sacraments regularly. And so about 9 months after that experience in the confessional, I was working for my mom. She owned a small business at the time, and she was in the hospital having her knees replaced. And a friend of hers, whose name happens to be Mary, comes up to me and says, hey, I know you're not thinking about the priesthood. There's this retreat going on at Mundelein Seminary. It's called Exploring Priesthood Weekend. It would be a good reason for you to get out of the house. Because it was the same weekend my mom was coming home from the hospital.
Oh, wow.
And I thought about it. I prayed about it. I reached out to the priest whose name was on this flyer. He's like, I don't know anything about you. Let's have a meeting. He was the vocation director at the time.
Sure.
I go and I meet him. I had no idea what a vocation director was. And I tell him all the reasons why I'm not supposed to be a priest, but I just want to get out of the house for the weekend and everything. He just laughs at me and he says, yeah, I think that you should go. And so I find myself on this retreat at Mundelein thinking, like, who even goes to a seminary? Like, I hadn't really known any seminarians. I'd only known older priests my entire life. But when I got there, I met a bunch of young men who are passionate about the faith, who are doing normal things. We were playing basketball and eating pizza and just having some great conversations. And I met a young man, his name is Ben, who also spent some time in the corporate world and was able to relate to me in a very real way. And he just shared his heart with me and said, hey, tonight you're going to have Eucharistic adoration. Just open your heart up to the Lord and see what he says. I'm like, okay, I can do that. So we were in the John Paul II chapel at Mundelein Seminary, and I just opened my heart up. And I said, Lord, I'm lost. I'm angry. I don't know what to do. I'm depressed. I'm anxious. I'm frustrated. What am I supposed to do with my life? And it was the most real thing I ever experienced in my entire life, still to this day, is I heard him speak to me from the Eucharist, and he said, be my priest. And I said, absolutely not. Nope, try again. That's not it, Lord. Nope.
Wrong answer.
I came here to find out what I'm supposed to do with my life, not for you to tell me to be a priest. And
sounds familiar, yeah.
And then he said it again, though. I heard him a second time. He said, be my priest. And I was like, oh, shoot. This has happened twice now. Okay. And so I wrestled with it. And then finally I just said, okay, Lord, if this is really what you want, then we need to do this together. Because when I tried to be a man on my own, I crashed and burned. I made all the wrong choices. So I need you to fill in those cracks and smooth off those rough edges and form me into the man that I need to be so that I can be this priest that you're asking me to be. And I was just filled with this peace when I said yes. And so that was January 17th, 2015. I started seminary the following August. And then I was ordained on May 15th, 2021. Today is actually my 5th anniversary of my diaconate ordination. I love being a priest. I love everything about it. The Lord has been so good to me, and I'm very excited to be here with you today.
This entire episode of The Inner Life is on the Relevant Radio app. The Relevant Radio app is completely free and updated daily with fresh articles, podcasts, and prayers. Don't delay. Download the app today. And thanks for listening.